Are we ready? All right, good afternoon for those of you who are watching online, people in the audience. This is today's May 31st, it's 5 o'clock, SOPEC Electrical Plan of Operation and Governance Public Hearing. I'm Councilman Brian Casey. I chair the Utilities Committee for the City of Cleveland and Cleveland City Council. To my right, for those of you watching us, your left, is Phil Lepla, who's the in-house counsel for SOPEC. And then to my left, your right, would be Luke Selfridge, who's the executive director of SOPEC. And to his left, we just call him Anan, who is with the Office of Sustainability for the City of Cleveland. And we're also joined by Chief Tiyuan, who's one of our higher up chiefs in the City of Cleveland, Chief Operating Officer for the City of Cleveland. So at this time, what I want to do is I'm turning it over to Mr. Selfridge, who will be giving the presentation on SOPEC.
Thank you, Councilman. Between Luke Selfridge and Phil, I leave it to you who wants to present.
Whoever wants to go.
Sure. Yeah, the slides are ready to go.
First.
Thank you.
Sure. Today's hearing is on the plan of governance. We will be touching briefly on some other things about SOPEC as an entity and happy to answer questions. SOPEC is a council of governments. We represent 27 different government entities across the state of Ohio, everything from villages to the city of Dayton presently, and we, on paper, would be the 5th largest city in the state if you put all of our communities together. Touching real quickly, there's
Mr.
yes, go ahead.
Could you just speak a little slower?
Yes, I can. No problem at all.
And if you could just repeat that with
Sure.
what you said. Thank you.
So we represent the Sustainable Ohio Public Energy Council today. We're a council of governments that runs energy programming, and I like to say we're a shared energy office for the members that we serve and that we're governed by. 27 different government entities across the state of Ohio, a few political subdivisions, but primarily cities, counties, villages, the largest being the city of Dayton, and a lot of villages in Appalachian Ohio and some cities there as well. We're today going to talk about the plan of governance, which is required to have these hearings by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. They have reviewed and approved this, as all other member communities have had similar hearings in the past to join in. But I want to take the opportunity to speak a little bit about what we do as well. Aggregation allows folks to shop for where the power supply comes from. So this does not impact the reliability of your power. It doesn't impact the lines and wires. This is the generation component of your bill that aggregation relates to. So we're having the first of 2 public hearings today. We'll be having the second tomorrow. We're here at the request of the city to help with these hearings and walk folks through the SOPEC plan of governance. Yeah, just skipping ahead a few slides here. Oh, yep, she's driving in real time too. Thank you. Yes, we should coordinate.
And I would also like to add that we would take questions at the end of the presentation, so allow SOPEC to be able to prepare the presentation. And again, I think, Brittany, you have the WebEx chat open, right, for questions coming in. And so our office staff is also monitoring questions. Please feel free to provide any questions you've not already provided through the Google form we had provided earlier through the WebEx chat, and we'll be monitoring them and trying to address them as much as possible. Thank you.
Yep. And Brittany, if you can advance us to the next slide, that's information. Is that correct at the time for the hearings? Next one's at 4 o'clock tomorrow?
Yes, say next.
Thank you. We will do. Yep. Okay, perfect. Next slide. Okay, next again. All right. Here's a timeline just to walk through what we're looking at. SOPEC will be prepared by next week to have executable pricing, contracts, all that's ready now. So we are working through the process to make sure everything is ready to go as soon as possible. So SOPEC will be prepared early next week to be able to take everything and move forward. So there's a timeline of what residents should be seeing based on the timeline should council approve. Yes.
Can you go over the timeline?
I can walk through it in detail.
So that they're not reading that. So
yes, if you are not reading this. So we're having a hearing today, another one tomorrow. Legislation is going to be, the rest of the timeline is contingent on passage of legislation, including the approval of the plan of governance by City Council. We're anticipating that could happen on Monday, the 5th. If that were to happen, the rest of the timeline is based on how quickly we can trigger a contract that we have ready for the city's attorney's review anytime now, which would be an amendment to a master supply agreement we already have with AP Energy. So it would be ironing out the details, including final pricing as it relates to an executable price that council will be seeing here very shortly. Other things of note, residents will be receiving 2 pieces of mail as we reactivate the program. One will be from our program, which will be what's called an opt-out letter. So we'll go into detail here in a few minutes on what the program entails, but residents have the ability to leave the program at any time with no early termination fee. That's a feature, always has been, of our program. The second piece of literature folks will be getting will be from the utilities. So Ohio Edison, the aluminum company, will be sending a piece of literature most likely that'll describe the switch that's occurring to residents. So if residents want to participate in this program and have not previously switched, they don't have to do anything. These are both notifications that of terms and term length, and our price is fixed. It will not change. So for the duration of this term, which will be 12 months, it'll be the same price. That'll represent at current market conditions significant savings, estimated, I should say, as the attorneys always tell me I have to say, against the standard service offer, which does change in June this month, or next month, June 1st. So residents should be on the lookout for those 2 pieces of literature and a lot of communications from the city and us as well, in addition to that. But those are 2 basic pieces of communication they should be expecting pretty shortly. And we expect a supply to start in July, or in August, excuse me, with the current timeline of the contract being signed sometime in the next week or so. So if I go to the next slide, this is a little bit about us and who we are. So SOPEC is, again, as I said, a council of governments. Communities can shop for power. So Ohio has been a deregulated electricity market for over 20 years at this point. You can shop for power as an individual, you can shop as a community, or a group of communities can shop together. We represent the last, that we are a group of communities that shops for power either together as one price or collectively through a contract as we have developed. That enables us to do things like net metering. So if you have solar, you'll be unimpacted. You'll be able to take advantage of our rates and participate in the program both at the same aggregation rate as everybody else. We fought very hard for that. There are also things that come with being a larger city, which Cleveland is on its own, but collectively having that contract authority to where we can do a lot of work together and really do creative work with our communities that they want to pursue themselves. We are formed as an alternative to a private broker model. We are governed by the communities we serve. Every member community has 1 vote in our General Assembly. We're also governed by a board of directors. Our board of directors is the 5 largest communities, 5 regions in the state, and up to 5 at-large members, which include villages. We have the former head of the Ohio EPA, who's now the executive director of the Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District. So a few of those folks who wouldn't fit in the other categories that we definitely welcome be part of our leadership team as well. Our General Assembly meets quarterly. That increasingly is becoming the more regular meeting body. So everybody has a seat at the table there. That's where we approve grants, where we approve budgets, new officers, approve new communities, and the like. So a lot of our governance. We're also 100% renewable energy. So our default program is 100% renewable energy. We'll be able to do that and receive significant savings for our communities. Last year, we saved, at a time when other aggregators were having a lot of struggles, we saved our communities over $13 million last year. In the city of Dayton, that represented about $300 per household in savings while being 100% green. So we were happy that we were able to do both. And when we say green, we mean wind, solar, and maybe hydro, very carefully considered. So those are what we imply by that. But there are currently 20 EPA Clean Power Partner communities in the state of Ohio. SOPEC represents 19 of them. Cleveland is the 20th. So we definitely welcome Cleveland to be part of that journey with us as well. Next slide. As I mentioned, we're growing, continue to grow. So we're happy about that and happy to help Cleveland grow their program and do new cool things with it that continue to meet the goals of it, including saving folks money. We are a public agency. So we are sunshine laws apply to us. We are audited on a regular basis. So we hold ourselves to very high standards as it relates to governance, as should every local government in the state of Ohio, as are we. Next. So today's hearing is about the plan of operation governance, and this is really kind of the bones of how a program should run. This is required by the Public Utilities Commission. In order to activate an aggregation program, you have to go through these hearings. You have to file this program with the state, with the Public Utilities Commission. We work very closely with the Public Utilities Commission and have a good relationship with them to make sure we're always in compliance, and if we're doing anything creative, checking with them in advance to make sure that things we're doing are going to fit within what's possible. Folks will not be part of the aggregation program if they are a member of the PIP program. So if you're in a payment-based, income-adjusted program you are not part of aggregation. If you've ever shopped for power before, you will not be part of aggregation. Or if you've called the Public Utilities Commission and been asked to be put on a list of do not aggregate, you'd be excluded from an aggregation program. This is for folks who have either not shopped in the past or folks who wish to come into the program and take advantage of the savings. In fact, Dayton last year mentioned we had about 30% savings for that program. We had a lot of folks who had shopped previously, but we were able to secure such a good price that a lot of them flooded into the program and took advantage of the price that we were able to get for them, which was great. We had about 98% participation rate in that program last year, which we're very proud of. Next slide. This describes a little bit of just the revised code and where this fits in. Again, this is voluntary. There's no early termination fee for folks if they want to leave the program, just as long as it takes the utility to switch them in or out. There is a delay if you want to leave the program or come back, but if you're coming in, there's a 14-day enrollment period that the utility has, but beyond that, you're welcome in the program as you see fit. I will advise you if you're shopping outside of our program, just watch for prices that change after the first month. So variable pricing models. Also be very cognizant of fees. Sometimes they'll have a fee that's attached on a monthly basis, what may be a very attractive rate. There may be a fee that you're paying on a regular basis, or early termination fees. I would advise folks to watch all those things if you are shopping for power. Our program, again, does not have an early termination fee, so that's shouldn't be a concern for folks if they're participating in the program. All right, let's move on to the next. So as I mentioned, we have a collective buying power, which is getting quite large. Cleveland only makes that larger, but we definitely welcome Cleveland to that. And when I say negotiating power, I'm talking about contract terms. So it's not just price, which price is always an important consideration, but allows us to do other things that are very important to the cities, to program management, to things that help the programs run smoother, run better, and do a lot of the out-of-the-box things by having that scale to be able to push the envelope from a policy standpoint. As I mentioned, clean energy has been a feature of our program. We're very proud of that, what we've been able to accomplish with that. We've been the first in the country to achieve a lot of the things that we're doing while achieving very significant savings. So a lot of the communities we serve do come from communities that have significant financial hardships. So price is very important to us as we're considering it. So we don't take it lightly. We make sure that we're looking holistically at our program as we're locking rates and trying to make good judgment. And with our communities often involved in that process as we're renewing contracts, we invite them to the table. As we're forming new contracts, very engaged with the communities. So we're not doing an isolation from them, that they're very engaged in that process and feel very comfortable with what we're deciding, whether it's term length or pricing or the type of green program that we're doing. Go on to the next one. So as I mentioned, renewable energy is important to us. These are some other goals that are identified in the plan of governance. Economic development, we are very active in other areas of sustainability. We're a member of many Heritage Ohio Main Street programs in the state. We believe in sustainability, broadly speaking. So we like to be a part of the solution and view ourselves as an economic engine that way too. So we like to be both a connector for good programs that are happening, helping bring those programs to communities, but also there's a resource. And at the end of the day, again, I see us as a shared energy office for those communities. If they have an energy office already, being that back-end support to help them do more. If they don't have one at all, helping them be that base operation, help them make good decisions. All right, next. This is a little more about rate structure. Again, you're still going to be connected to the same lines and wires you connected to already. So this does not change in the same way the aggregation programs run in the past. You're merely switching suppliers. So we'll be operating as a public broker for the city to secure the best possible price, meeting the requirements that they've put forward as well. Next. Sorry, we're working through it. So folks, I mentioned we'll get a letter notifying them of the term length and the price every time that the aggregation program resets. So we are looking at a 12-month term for this program initially. So as that price resets, there'll be another opt-out letter that goes out notifying folks of new term, new price. So folks will be able to see that. We'll try to make that as visible as possible in the letter, but that will be coming to them after the PUCO has the chance to review that. They approve those letters before they go out. Consumers have the ability to review those for 21 days. But again, we don't have an early termination fee. So if you miss that 21-day window and decide on day 22, you don't want to participate, there's no penalty for that. Worst case, you may be in the program for that 1 month read until it gets aligned again. But that 21 days historically was to avoid the early termination fee, which is not relevant for our program. Next. Again, distribution utility does not change. This is, again, a lot of language straight from the plan of governance, so we just want to share a lot of it with you. And again, it's in our interest and our members, as we're governed by the communities we serve, to protect the interest of our member communities because they are us. We are governed by the communities we serve. Next. So the PUCO is the governing agency, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. Again, we work very closely with them to make sure we are in compliance. They manage some lists like the do not aggregate list I mentioned earlier. Folks who are part of a municipal electric utility, so in the case of Cleveland CPP customers, will not be eligible for an aggregation program, nor would folks in rural electric cooperatives. So other parts of the state, Lorain County, for instance, where those exist, they are not eligible because they're already together as a group of customers as it is. So this is for folks in investor-owned utility territories. So in the case of this area, it would be the Illuminating Company or Ohio Edison. Would be those relevant customers. Other parts of the state, it might be AEP Ohio, Duke, or AES Ohio. Next. Again, public announcements are part of this. This is all stuff that's governed and in compliance with the rules. Public hearings today. Make sure we've notified folks of that. So lots of notifications to make sure everyone knows what's happening. Next. Again, a 21-day opt-out period that is relevant if you don't want to participate in the program. But again, there's no early termination fee if you miss that window. So if you don't see that, there's no fee for you to leave later. Worst case scenario, you've saved money against the standard service offer for that time of period that you were in the program. Next. Again, some boilerplate language, lots of legalese here. There will be a toll-free number dedicated. SOPEC has a dedicated line for folks to call in. So if you would like to switch in or out of the program, you can call that line, and that'll give you the ability to do that. You can also email. But again, the PUCO regulates how some of those things are operated, but we will be publishing all that in the letter itself, as well as the website. And I believe Symbol Cleveland will have that posted as well. Next. Again, I keep mentioning that early termination fee. It's in our plan of governance a lot, but we don't charge one. Skip to the next slide. So electric aggregation programs are limited to a maximum of 36 months or 3 years. So our program, the longest duration that any particular contract goes for is 3 months. We tend to do them in 1-year blocks.
3 years.
What did I say?
You said months.
Oh, excuse me, 36 months or 3 years. Thank you for the correction. That's a big, important one. So 3 years is the longest duration. Thank you. We do anywhere from 1 year at the shortest to 3 years at the longest in our term length. Thank you. That's an important clarification. No problem. Again, electricity does not change where it's coming from. And we can go and go to the next one. We did mention our supplier. So we are what's known as a broker. We have a competitive retail energy supplier. It's different from the distribution utility. So we procure our supply through AEP Energy. So we have a master supply agreement with AEP Energy where they procure it. We have mechanisms in that contract to force them to get competitive bids as they get power for us. But we have an arrangement with them, an agreement with them to where we can get pricing on a daily basis and really look at the market and lock in price when it makes sense in conjunction with communities, watching market conditions in real time to see what makes sense. So you'll see some of that verbiage related to AEP Energy attached to this as well, but SOPEC will be the main relationship with the city and with the customer. We're happy to do that. All right, next. Again, a toll-free number will be published. Once the program is active and live, folks can call in. Next. And so here, the contract itself, as it relates to member communities, SOPEC has tried to make it as flexible as possible for members. So we've shortened that timeline while honoring existing contracts, letting communities have the flexibility if they are not happy with the program, having the flexibility to make a change if they would like to do so. Again, individuals can change at any time. This relates more to the broader contract with the community itself as they've locked in a price, and the retail energy supplier has procured the power for that. Next. I talked about our governance structure a little bit earlier. I'll reiterate here. We have one member, one vote. So our General Assembly is made up of every single member community. I will say it's very consensus-based. So if there's something that folks are not in agreement on, it gets tabled. So this is made up of largely public officials, some other representatives of cities, but largely mayors, county commissioners, a couple of fiscal officers, executive directors of some of the political subdivisions I mentioned. We have a few metro parks, watershed districts, and the like. But again, we're acting at their behalf. And again, our board of directors is a subset of that group, is appointed by the General Assembly. Again, 5 largest, up to 5 at large, and 5 regions of the state, which is the 4 corners, and Central Ohio being the 5th. Next. This reiterates that again, graphical form of our structure. So again, see at the top, we report to the public officials for the communities we serve. Next. So we are certified by the PUCO. We're in good standing with the PUCO. Just referencing that here in this slide as well. Next, and this is where our authority comes from in the statute as well. Again, market leverage. So the more communities we have, the more we can leverage either buying power, but also being able to develop better processes. We have a very transparent contract with AP Energy as it relates to our power supply. We've negotiated that, so we know a lot of what goes into that and feel very confident that we're getting fair pricing in real time. Next. Here is our, again, governance. Modifications to this plan have to be by a vote of the board of directors and a majority of the General Assembly, which again is made up of every member community. Next. So again, we talked about price stability already. I'm not going to dwell on this, but again, our terms are fixed from 1 to 3 years. We do not use variable pricing. We believe in watching the utility standard service offers and making good judgments around those decision points. So we don't gamble when it comes to pricing. So if we're in conversations with our communities, and when we see opportunities to take double-digit savings off the board, we do. So we don't chase the bottom. Sometimes we're able to find the bottom, but if we see an opportunity from a good public policy standpoint to have green power and see double-digit savings, that is a win. So we are obviously constantly in dialogue with our communities when we lock in on price, but we're watching the markets, and that's the trigger for us, is watching the standard service offers and seeing what the price to compare is going to be, so that we know what the rate's going to be, and that we in good faith are going to beat the rate. Next. This is a sample with the envelope that's going to be coming through the opt-out letter. It's going to look like. This should be very similar to what it's going to look like. So as residents are going to be getting it in their mail. It looks like a lot of legalese, because it is. We're actually talking about the today, maybe being able to get some more plain language in there with an introductory letter as well. But at this point, that's the letter. And if you can skip to the next, I think the letter itself isn't going to, yeah, there you go. So this will be an example of what the opt-out letter looks like. The terms and term length are very prominent at the top, but again, there may be some other language added, not to this terms and conditions, but explaining it a little easier. But folks should expect something that looks similar to this coming to them soon. These are always filed on the Public Utilities website. So if anybody ever has a question, threw away the piece of mail, you can always find these on the Public Utilities Commission website. And not too terribly difficult. Maybe we can find a way to link that so folks can look at it pretty easily on Sustainable Cleveland as well. But they should be seeing this come in their mailbox once the program is approved and operational. Next. Again, we are a leader in renewable energy. We're very proud of that. Again, we serve communities that vary from 20 to 30% poverty in a lot of our communities right now. So I say this knowing that we're also saving them a lot of money at the time. So we're able to do what's right from a policy standpoint, and also able to help in good faith find savings for the residents as well. So that for me is a real win. One thing I did not mention earlier, but we do have built in. So folks do want to participate in the aggregation, take advantage of the savings. We do allow folks to quote unquote step down or opt into a brown power option. So folks are opposed. That is available as well, and they can take advantage of the savings, the bulk buying power, but step into a brown price as well. The savings is usually pretty modest, somewhere in the range of 0.1 to 0.3 cents, somewhere in that range difference per kilowatt hour. For some folks, that may be an important philosophical shift for them, so we do allow that in the program as well. Next. And there's simply our contact information. So that's a very quick overview of the plan of governance. This is probably one of our more boring presentations. We typically start with more of an explanation of who we are and what we are, but this is really going to the meat and potatoes of this particular document as required by law. Again, we are a council of governments that represents 27 different communities across Ohio. We've been a national leader in a lot of programs and very proud of that. If you want to flip back to the very first slide, that's not too much of a hassle. It's kind of fun. That's where the fun pictures are. We just as an aside, again, while saving money, we're now working on a electric charging grant for a lot of our communities right now. At the very bottom, that blue and gray building is the first net zero EMS station in Ohio, we believe. That to the right is in Logan, Ohio. That's the first electric police car in Ohio. They utilized a community grant to buy the chargers, and their public service director determined that they were going to be pretty cost competitive. So be warned, there's a Tesla police car in Logan. But we're very happy to be creative and be that back-end support and resource to help push the envelope on a lot of programmatic stuff as well. And so you guys have a very robust staff here. We're happy to be a support role there, help expand what's possible. We are in a lot of national work groups, a lot of regional work groups, doing a lot of idea sharing. So one of the benefits of SOPEC is that we are a collaborative agency, and that extends beyond Ohio and what we're able to provide to the communities. So finding solutions to problems, finding resources, helping extend resources that might be scarce to start with. We really pride ourselves in helping move the envelope forward. And with that, I will close.
All right, thank you, Mr. Saltridge.
Thank you.
I thought you were gonna do half of it or whatever, but are you, Mr.
get off the
Leflow,
hook.
do you have anything to add?
I don't. It's, to Luke's point, it's not the most exciting because it's not the most exciting document. But we're happy to answer any questions anybody might
All
have.
right, I'll start off with some of the questions that I have. You mentioned June 1st in your presentation. What happens on June 1st?
That's when the change in the standard service offer.
And you want to explain standard service offer?
So if you don't have an aggregation program, or that is the rate that folks pay without an aggregation program.
Okay,
And on electric, it's called the standard service offer.
all right. So at our last committee hearing, we heard that the price for SOPEC was an estimate. So when will we learn what the actual price will be?
So they are actually waiting on a refresh of data. We talked to AP today, AP Energy that is, but we are hearing actually the price is better than what you guys have seen already, because the market has actually improved even further. So we will have executable pricing Monday. So you guys will see it before council, before you make any further
So
decisions.
we'll have our actual price. We'll know it before council. I heard you say it. I heard you say
Well-
absolutely, and now Anand was gonna say.
There's a process too.
I would like to add to that city's process. Thank you, Councilman. So yes, while you may get a pricing in the market in terms of what the indication is, we have to complete our process. And so because the supporting legislation is in front of council, right, we have to complete the plan of governance hearings today, tomorrow. And then the piece that was introduced is for the council to adopt the POP and authorize the city to enter into a SOPEC membership. So that is when the process is considered complete from legislation. Then we would execute the contract as soon as possible. So in one of the slides, we said mid-June, just from a city's contracting process. So we would wait for the day that the city has completed its terms and conditions as soon as possible. And then ask SOPEC to refresh the pricing. So that will be the final executable pricing on the day. So we can lock in that pricing within 24 hours.
And this is one of the aggravating things, how we did this backwards, right? Because this should have been done first, and then we should have went out. And we should have hit, because this way we would know what the price would be. And the council has a lot of reservations, giving the authority to go out for SOPEC without knowing what the amount is going to be. And I can appreciate your estimate, but in every other city that you're in, the other cities don't even come close to what your estimate here is.
Sorry, if you can share the pricing that we locked last week.
Yeah, I can give you some real examples where we locked just.
Riverside and the Village of Marble Cliff. Those are the two most recent prices.
What is it?
The
The city of Riverside, which is where the Air Force Museum is.
Marble Cliff is in Central Ohio.
And Phil, that connection just dropped on me, so let me pull the price up from a different source. So we're at, I believe, 77.265 for Riverside as of last week.
Correct.
And Marble Cliff, I'll get you an exact number, but it's 7.0.
So when you're locking in pricing, it's based on commodity that moves on an hourly basis even.
Yes.
Not daily, if not hourly.
Right.
Yep.
So this gives you a good estimate of where the market has moved. And each local utility territory is a little bit different for pricing. But Marble Cliff was 7.073 cents per kilowatt
Thank you.
hour.
What is it? What was it?
7.073 cents per kilowatt hour. That's with Greenie Rex, which are the gold standard Rex, and that's for 22 months.
All right, who sits on your board of directors? Do any representatives on your board of directors currently employed by the cities that you guys represent? And will somebody from the city of Cleveland be sitting on your board of directors?
Absolutely. To answer your second question, absolutely. To answer the first question,
Yeah, we have a fiscal officer, so it's employees.
so the executive director of
Correct.
Muskingum Watershed Conservancy District, who's the former head of the Ohio EPA,
Yep.
is on the board.
Yep.
He's an employee. But there are elected officials as well.
So don't you think that that's a conflict? I don't know if I would want somebody from the city sitting on SOPEC who has to vote on SOPEC. Is your board of directors in conflict if your board of directors all have contracts with the cities?
I don't believe so.
Our board's an
Frankly,
unpaid board.
when there's ever a vote that involves a certain community and there's a potential conflict of interest, that person is asked to recuse.
Yep.
From any vote.
All right, and then
To answer your question.
I don't know much about AEP. All I know is that they were involved with they were mentioned in the scandal with First Energy downstate. So can you guys tell me what your relationship is with AEP?
AEP Ohio, we do not have a relationship with. AEP Energy is our supplier. They
Okay,
are
so
press.
what's the difference between AEP Energy and AEP Ohio?
They are technically different companies. I'm just answering the question. from
Do
a
they
legal
fall
standpoint.
under the same awesomeness at all? Is one an offshoot of the other?
I wouldn't say offshoot. It's
Okay.
a separate
At least that.
company.
We got a big decision to make here on
Understood.
Monday, okay? And I don't want to split hairs.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to answer. The
I get that. Is AEP Ohio and AEP Energy related in any way?
They're an affiliate.
Are they
yes,
associated?
fair.
So they're affiliated,
Yes.
right? Okay, let's
No, I'm just
say,
trying to.
let's just, no, we just want answers. Okay, I don't want to split hairs here. I don't want to, we got a big decision to make for a lot of our customers and our residents in the city of Cleveland. You guys are the ones that came to us through the administration. We're just asking questions, okay? I don't want to split hairs. I don't want to find out later, I mean, if we're going with SOPEC, I want to go with SOPEC, right? I don't know why our residents, if they want to opt out, have to contact AEP, right? So what's the relationship between SOPEC and AEP where somebody can't just opt out of SOPEC by calling SOPEC? They have to go through a third party essentially. Executive director?
So we're the government aggregator. So, but there are things that we contract out, like procurement of power at present. We do the opt-out letters. You're talking tens of thousands of opt-out letters. So those go through a professional print shop that we contract the AEP Energy to do. The call center, they have roughly, I think 50 employees there that are contracted just for the call center. So to provide economy of scale, where it's cost effective, we do utilize them for that. And those are probably the three primary services we use them for. Everything else is in-house.
All right. Are you here for, do you have public comment or anything that you want to do? You're observing? Okay. Do we have any questions, chat online?
No. So far, we have not received any questions, either via the Google form or the chat.
Okay. Councilman Harsh has joined us. I'm sure he has a plethora of questions. So Councilman Harsh, if you have any questions, now's your time to
You have
ask.
to go through the chair.
You don't have to go through the chair. Let's just do
Okay.
this.
If all your power comes from AEP, what are you aggregating?
So there's distinct roles in Ohio. You have competitive retail energy suppliers. So those would be Energy Harbor, AEP Energy, big entities, which historically have been affiliated with utilities. Some of them are at different stages of reorganization, but largely that side of the house. There's also aggregators themselves. So we aggregate the load itself, the customers, and we are acting on their behalf. So we are acting on their behalf, but we contract with the competitive retail energy supplier to procure that power in real time.
Which is required by the PUC.
It is. They're two distinct different things by the PCO and the way it's structured.
So all you're aggregating are customers for AEP.
We aggregate them for SOPEC. We have a contract with AEP to
You are
service
SOPEC.
customers. We are SOPEC.
So
Yes.
you get multiple customers together to buy power from AEP.
At present, our power is coming from AEP. That's correct. Now, I will say that long-term, we are working on building out our own assets so we can have generation that we'll be able to less and less of that becoming. And increasingly, it'll be a publicly beneficial.
But why
Generations.
wouldn't the city just have a contract with AEP if all the power comes from AEP?
AEP Energy, but we're able to negotiate a contract on behalf of everybody together collectively, whereas one-on-one. Go ahead, Phil.
And if I might too, SOPEC is now AEP Energy's exclusive governmental aggregator throughout the state of Ohio for new communities. So a new community cannot go to AEP Energy directly.
So AEP has a contract with SOPEC that the only way they will accept customers is through you.
For new communities,
Aggregation.
we are the governmental aggregator for aggregation, yes.
So, I mean, this is sort of a head scratcher. AEP sells energy, but they only sell to communities through SOPEC.
No. So AEP Energy, moving forward, has decided that in contract with us, that new communities wishing to pursue aggregation are only going to be in partnership with us. They won't be doing it independent of us moving forward. There are communities currently being served, like Columbus, that are not SOPEC member communities. There's a few of them historically, not many, but a few. Columbus being the
AEP
largest.
services Columbus directly as the municipality.
Correct.
Is that because they've got their, what was
Well,
it?
they actually don't serve them directly. They serve them through a private broker. In fact, last year our pricing was cheaper than theirs through our, but it's the same structure, but they are through a private broker, whereas we're a
So
public.
the city of Cleveland could not go to AEP Energy directly.
Not at this
Not
time.
at present.
But AEP has applied to be an aggregator or are in the early process of becoming an aggregator for the state of Ohio.
I'm not sure I follow.
You guys had to apply to become aggregators, right?
Governmental aggregate.
Okay. Isn't AEP doing the exact same thing?
They are a CRES, which is different. I know, they are a competitive retail energy service provider, which is CRES. There's only a handful of those that are operating in the state of Ohio. AEP Energy, Energy Harbor, Dynegy, NextEra, IGS, sort of.
Yeah.
Constellation. That.
Some are
it's
more
a-
active
It's a
than others.
pretty small sphere.
So let me ask you this. So currently this year, AEP could not have been on our RFP.
On their own.
Yeah.
We have an agreement with them that it's with SOPEC.
Could they have done it
No,
on their own? So they couldn't. And maybe if we had a crystal ball in 5 years, could they without SOPEC? Maybe.
I don't know the answer to that because I don't know.
I can tell you it'll be yes.
Does SOPEC then make money off selling AEP's energy back to customers in Cleveland? Or do you make money off, how does SOPEC make
How are
money?
we funded? So SOPEC's funded in a couple ways, primarily through the Government Aggregation Program on a volumetric basis. So if we've done our job right, folks are saving money and built into that, embedded in the rate, is a small fee that we're on a volumetric basis.
So if the rate, it comes out to 7.265 cents per kilowatt hour, which is what you just signed somebody up for, a portion of that is earmarked for you.
Correct.
Right.
And that money goes into the budget to which our communities themselves dictate how that money's spent. So that's our operating budget. So again, we're governed by the communities we serve. So they dictate what that budget is constructed of. So it goes right back to the communities as our operations.
So ostensibly, if AEP energy were selling directly, we could save the difference for the community by buying directly from them.
I'd say history hasn't always bared that out. You're negotiating an independent contract as a one-off, whereas we've negotiated a larger contract.
How much is Cleveland going to increase your customer pool? You serve how many households, rooftops?
On the aggregation list is somewhere near 50,000.
Is
So
what you
it's,
serve right now?
yeah,
And we're gonna
ebbs.
add,
I will say it ebbs and it flows because people opt in, opt out
Correct.
programs.
it depends on what time of year you're asking.
but you're in the 50,000 range, and Cleveland's gonna bring another 40 some, how many thousand?
It'll probably roughly double us. It's probably rough.
It depends, yeah, it depends on who hasn't shopped for power,
Yep.
That sort of thing.
And I'll say similarly, we went through a very similar process with Dayton a few years ago. When Dayton joined, they roughly doubled where we were at that point. In fact, we brought Phil on at a very high level and staffed up. We're going to be doing the same up here. We'll be staffing up with folks on the ground.
And
Northeast
and
Ohio.
the difference, SOPEC is a service-based organization.
Yeah.
We're here to serve our communities, and we're governed by our communities. So when we have a new community come online, we invest in our services. That is our model. Private brokers operate differently. If Cleveland joins SOPEC, we will be staffing up accordingly up here in Northeast Ohio and opening an office.
In Northeast Ohio or Cleveland?
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Cleveland, we will be specific. It's
I'm just
Cleveland, yes.
referencing. But yes, Cleveland would be the member community,
Yes,
to be clear. Just like we opened an office in Dayton.
downtown.
I also have questions. You say you're 100% renewable energy. Is AEP energy 100% renewable?
No,
Well, I
I'm trying to
think
figure out how to answer that.
Yeah, so I think explaining how the power does not come directly from AEP energy assets. A CREST provider goes out onto the open market and purchases the power. If you want to go ahead and explain REX and how that works.
Yeah, we can probably attach actually on the Sustainable Cleveland website. The EPA has a great little short video on it that can do a much better job than we can short term. But in essence, right now, there are different components to power. So as you get like your cell phone bill, your electric bill, there are different components to that. One of the part of that is a renewable energy certificate. So as power has different values, one of those is the green attributes to power generation. So we procure that separately from the base generation power, as does any utility as required by renewable portfolio standards. So depending on what that level is required of them, they're procuring that the same way. So we are procuring that through AEP Energy. Green E certified RECs are considered the gold standard. They're audited, make sure that everything's clean, attached to a given wind facility, solar facility. Largely that, it is wind or solar. And we can point to the standardized resource. So AEP Energy is providing the power that its customers are requesting. So in our case, it is green power. In some cases, it may not be.
So how do you ensure that the power that AEP is providing you comes from green sources and not others?
So there's a tracking sheet. So there's a system. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you talking about the base power or the RECs? Just to be clear.
SOPEC claims to be 100% renewable energy.
What does that mean?
So
You want to
the
understand
energy
how that-
that makes it through the wires, the customers in Cleveland. How do you ensure that that comes from green sources, renewable sources?
So the electrons themselves are going into a giant bucket. So the electrons are going to go to whatever's closest. So as a generation, it's regulated by something called PJM, which is a regional grid operator, regional transmission operator. They are across 13 states, from Chicago to New York. They manage to make sure the lights stay on and the market regulation side. There's a lot of pieces of what that market looks like as far as how power is priced. We're only touching one piece of it. So as a giant bucket, the power side's going in there. There's other reliability auctions and other things that go into that. That's one piece of it. But then when it gets to the type of power, we're buying the rights to green power. So even though the electron may be coming from somewhere else, we're buying the rights to it. Nobody else can claim that electron as green anywhere else. So
There's a useful analogy for that, is essentially for RECs. It's like if you go to an ATM to take out money out of your bank account, that money's not actually coming out of your bank account, but it's earmarked for you. That's what RECs do for renewable energy.
Are the RECs
Yeah,
based
nobody
on?
claims that energy, nobody claims that money comes from renewable or not renewable sources, right? I mean, the economy doesn't work that way. We're talking about the generation of electricity.
Sure.
And so what you're saying is that AEP has 100% of their portfolio and 20% of it is green. So they only sell 20% of it as green and the other 80% is sold as brown. Brown is the term you use for non-renewable.
I would say the majority of it actually in Ohio at this point is green. With our load in Columbus, as we are their second largest customer behind Columbus. Both of those are very large. So if you're looking at the percentage of the power right now, most of it does have green attributes.
And so who regulates AEP to make sure that they're not selling green energy to 100% of their customers while only generating 20% of their electricity through renewable?
When it's still to be clear, the base power itself is power from the open market. The RECs are then layered on that are the renewable energy certificates that make a program. So the base power, when they go out, they're going out into the open market and buying it. That is not AEP Energy's power necessarily, but they are a CREST provider who's allowed to go out on the market and get that. That's governed by the PUCO. So they have to be, a CREST provider has to be the one who does that.
Are the
Does
recs,
that make?
are the recs based in Ohio?
Not enough of them. So Ohio, as you well know, doesn't have enough renewable assets as of yet. We are working on that, but a lot of it is coming out of the Midwest.
So
So
RECs in Ohio currently are more expensive
that's the real
because
reason.
there's
Yep.
less of them.
Yep.
It's a market.
We would like for them to be Ohio, but, and yeah, said, that's what it amounts to. We're looking at our customer base and we want to do, environmentally speaking, it doesn't matter from an equity standpoint and from a future development of resources. We definitely would like those dollars to stay locally. So we are looking on building out assets in Ohio. So those dollars and the benefits from those resources stay in the state, but there's not near enough right now.
Why do you guys have an exclusive supplier?
So historically, we had an exclusive relationship with AEP to where we didn't shop. We had a lockdown contract with them that enables more flexibility to lock in on price. So if you do an RFP, you may get the best price on a given day, but as the market goes up and down, it's been probably 15% last week.
But if you had a competitive process, wouldn't that bring the price down? I mean,
Only for that day.
AP locks you in, right?
Well, we have a built-in process where they have to give us 3 bids from the
Yep.
open market. Because back to the point
Yep.
where that power is coming from, it's not coming from AEP Energy's assets. It's coming from the open market. They have to get 3 bids from that open market and bring those to us, show those to us to keep them honest. So it's almost like an internal competitive process from
It is.
that standpoint. The purpose of why this contract with them, exclusivity, is so important and helpful is we get daily pricing. We aren't out there gambling, as Luke said earlier. We get that every single day. We're able to see where the market is going. We're able to get that more hands-on customer service that you don't get otherwise.
So does the price that you guys pay AEP for the electricity vary from day to day? Or are you guys actually locked into a contract
No.
with AEP, like we're gonna be locked in with you? So if AEP's price, as you said, could fluctuate, but it could come down, right? We'll just say 2 cents or whatever it is. Our price is staying the same, you guys make more, our
No, does not work that way.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, it does not work that way. So when we lock power for a community, that is fixed for that term, whatever the community decides, whether it's 12 months to 36 months. That's fixed term pricing. It will not change. We're involved in that same fixed price. So what is coming to SOPEC and the admin fee or whatever you want to call it, that is baked into your program and does not
So
change.
if we go with you for 1 year to 3 years, right?
Yes.
You guys are negotiating with AEP for that same term, right? So in other words,
Yeah.
we're paying we'll just say we're paying 6.9 for a year, okay? Are you buying the energy from AEP on Monday at one price and then buying it on Tuesday for another price and then buying it on Thursday?
We're not hedged.
Friday?
We're not locking
I'm,
hedges.
I'm just.
We're showing you
I
exactly
see
what the
what you're
price
saying.
is.
Yep.
AEP's margin's locked, our margin's locked. So as that market goes up and down, the base price is changing on the supply side, but we're buying supply for you in real time as we show you the price. So we're saying, here's the price, everything's locked in. It's not as if we turn around tomorrow and sell that power to
So-
somebody else and switch
But
back.
I will clarify to Luke's point, or when we were talking about earlier about Riverside and Marble Cliff coming online last week. That's just because of where they were in their process.
Yep.
They locked for 22 months so that Riverside could sync up with Dayton for the next term. And that Marble Cliff could sync up to the rest of the AEP Ohio bundle. They wanted to sync up. So that's why they selected 22 months.
Chris, do you have anything else?
Yeah, how many people work for SOPEC?
It's
Present.
growing,
Present.
6 full-time right now.
Good.
Yeah, we're getting ready to, we've got a fellow placed in Dayton through their community grant. We have an AmeriCorps member. And then we're actually getting ready to acquire,
State AmeriCorps.
yep, we have an AmeriCorps member. Yep. She's helping do Soul Smart credentialing for one of our communities right now.
Yeah.
But our
So
base,
you have 6 full-time employees.
Correct.
Yeah, and to answer your question further, we also have Dickinson Wright.
Yep.
As our outside counsel. Our primary attorney there was on the staff of the PUCO for 30 years.
Yep.
Including as the chief of staff of the PUCO. Global law firm, huge law firm. Then On the AEP Energy side, I believe they have over 200 employees. 50 of those employees work on SOPEC related issues in one form or another. So when just saying 6 is one thing, but
Yeah.
then when you add our full team, it's a big team.
What percentage of your personnel costs are outsourced? Are contractual?
We have outside accounting, we have outside, again, 2 different law firms doing outside. I couldn't give a percentage offhand, but we're pretty nimble.
Yeah.
We can come back on that.
look
It's
at
all
it.
part of our
I'm
budget.
just curious,
Yeah.
like, if we're gonna double the size of your profit, if we're gonna double your profit line, I'm just curious, like, what that means for you as a company, right? Most companies, when they double overnight with one client, that's like usually bad news, right? Companies are kind of designed to be incrementally grown. When they explode, things blow up, right? So I'm just curious
So
what's gonna
the
happen.
back end stuff is, AEP's handling the things as far as financial and everything else, AP handles that. So AP, this is not gonna double AP's.
Energy.
AP Energy, thank you.
And here's another point worth making too. We're not a company.
Yep.
We're an organization. We're a regional council of government. So we don't operate as a company. We don't view ourselves as such. We're a council of governments. We serve our communities. So when we grow, our staff grows, our services grow, so that we can better serve all of our members.
Does anybody at SOPEC have a bonus or incentive?
No,
For all salary,
we're all sour.
that's approved by the board.
Okay, and you outsource your customer service as well?
So for the
Not-
purposes of the opt-out letter, but we also have, a dedicated line for ourselves. We have a bilingual speaker who manages that line. So we are managing our own customer service from that standpoint, but
I'm our in-house counsel, but I'm also our Southwest Ohio director because I live in downtown Dayton. So I constantly interacting with Dayton staff to make sure they're getting good service. So yeah, AEP Energy may help with opt-out letters and that sort of thing and calls, but I'm on the phone almost daily with Dayton.
Okay.
So
I've been a councilman for less than a year and a half, but I have to email a government relations professional for every single utility almost every single day. Because people reach out to me every single day about every single utility. And I've got Director Keene that I send problems to, right? And I've got somebody over Dominion East Ohio, and I've got somebody at every single utility. So will you have a dedicated government relations person for members of council to send our people to directly when there are issues? Because we will be contacted probably before you will.
we will have dedicated staff on the ground here in Cleveland. Absolutely.
we will have a director up here,
Yep.
just like I am in Southwest for Dayton.
Anything else, Chris? All right, one last question. What's the added value in the contract?
Say that again.
The added
I'm not sure I
value?
follow.
What is that for the city of Cleveland?
Guess I don't quite understand. Do you mean the?
To a councilman, are you looking for quantitative benefits? Well, SOPEC offers, we are not taking any monetary grants. We made it very clear. If there is anything that's going to be in-kind assistance that we would love to come back to the community in order to provide any kind of energy efficiency type services. That's the only, and that can be resolved during our contracting process. City council.
All right, so the city is not going to receive any grants from SOPEC.
Any monetary grants, correct? And we mentioned that.
Is there any other kind of grant?
In-kind services to the community, such as energy efficiency services, is still on the table, and we would go back to the during the contracting process with law to verify what we can do.
Are those spelled out already in the contract?
In the proposal, yes, correct.
In
Yeah.
the proposal, okay. Anybody else have anything? We were joined by Director of Public Utilities, Marty Kane. Thanks for showing, Marty. Anybody else have anything? Is there anything else online? All right, we're gonna end 6 minutes early then. All right, we can go 6 minutes late tomorrow. Thank you for those who are watching, and we'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock, yes.
4 o'clock. For